Donald Trump romped last night, winning 98 of 99 counties in Iowa, winning every demographic. He won 54% of the people under the age of 30. He won 59% of self-identified white evangelicals. He won and won and won. Byron York of the Washington Examiner and Fox News joins me. Good morning, Byron. What do you make of last night?
Well, it dispensed with the question of whether Trump could get to 50% or not. He got to 51%, and that had really loomed as the sort of the last stand of the people who opposed Trump, because what they wanted to do was hold Trump to below 50%. Let's say he got 48%, and they would then say, "Look, we need to keep this primary going." More people voted for somebody else, somebody other than Donald Trump, than voted for Trump. And therefore, we need to continue this primary and have Nikki Haley perhaps be the nominee. Trump's argument was going to be, if he got over 50%, was going to be, you know that argument you have about if you can just get all of the Trump opponents, all of them out of the race except for one, and then we'll have a one-on-one contest. Well, look, you could put them all together, and they still can't beat me. And that's what Trump did. So the 51% was really kind of a dagger, stake in the heart of that argument that more people oppose Trump than support him.
Now, I spent most of my Fox News column on the white evangelical vote this morning because it's so widely misunderstood. The Washington Post ran a headline yesterday, "Ordained by God," implying that evangelical voters, self-described evangelicals, are voting for Trump because he's ordained by God. That's really stupid. They're voting their self-interest, their interest of their children and their grandchildren, and they may or may not believe he believes their faith ideals. But I'm really tired of the hysteria at MSNBC, and I have two questions for you, Byron. Does the hysteria on the left about Trump help him? And does the inherent American attachment to due process and fair play, and we love due process and fair play in sports, in everything, it's part of our DNA, work for Trump because they perceive in all these Javerts, Letitia Smith and the crazy judge in New York and Jack Smith and Fannie Wills and Keith Bragg or Alvin Bragg, do you think it's all piling up into a, gosh, this guy's getting screwed reaction among people of fair play?
Well, I think that's certainly what happened in Iowa. The Trump supporters I've talked to here in Iowa have all thought that he was being unfairly pursued. As a matter of fact, it's just an assumption among them. It's not like a judgment call. They firmly believe that. And as far as evangelicals are concerned, I think the fundamental reason they're supporting him now is the fundamental reason they supported him in 2016 is because they feel under attack by the forces of woke, the forces that that might make them lose their job unless they express the belief that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man. They feel under attack, and they feel that Trump is their best and strongest protector against those attacks.
That is part of it. In fact, in that Washington Post piece yesterday, the reporters said about Trump's assertion that evangelicals are under attack, quote, "Fact checkers, however, have debunked that claim. Experts on religious liberty, such as John Anazu from Washington University in St. Louis, cite multiple religion-related Supreme Court cases and say religious freedom is perhaps more protected than ever." You know, Byron, that is so self-contradictory. The reason one wins at the Supreme Court in the defense of religious liberty is because your religious liberty has been trampled on by state actors. Those cases, whether in Missouri or in Philadelphia or in Colorado, would not have existed, or in Washington state, except for the fact that actions were taken against religious believers. It's as though they don't understand they're indicting their own argument.
Yeah. And as far as the issue of what the response of the political system that has been trying to sort of expel Trump by indicting him, I think the response will be that they need to just raise the attacks. They need to just do more. They still haven't done enough to get rid of this man. So I think that's going to be their reaction, is to try to beat him harder.
Oh,
Um,
did you watch MSNBC at all last night, or were you on the Fox green table all night?
I was at a caucus in Ankeny, Iowa, and then I went to Ron DeSantis's headquarters after that. So I had a television-free evening where I actually
Well, the
experienced the event.
hysteria at MSNBC was fun to watch. I mean, these are all
Yeah.
people, I don't hate them. I worked with them, they're fine colleagues, but they all have a worldview that is deeply, deeply distorted by their ideology, and they project identity politics onto everyone when in fact I project self-interest politics onto everyone. Byron, tell me about the crowd at Team DeSantis. They poured everything.
Yeah.
The governor of Florida poured everything into Iowa.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they felt enormous relief, and they really weren't surprised that he actually finished second. Now, that was viewed amongst a lot of people as the minimum he had to do to survive. That is, if he finished third, he'd be going to Florida today instead of going to South Carolina and then to New Hampshire. So they were relieved about that. They were extremely angry, and this is something that I wasn't seeing, but they were extremely angry that a number of media outlets had called the race for Trump before people had voted in some caucuses, which I think they were justifiably angry about that, and I think that we should have a reform in the next Iowa caucuses that nobody calls the race before, say, 8 p.m. Central Time, which gives everybody a time to vote. So they were very upset about that. But I think the one thing they can't really face is how this is going to work going forward, because they were happy to have beaten Nikki Haley, but they were far, 30 points behind Trump. And so, okay, they've just been trounced by Trump in Iowa. They're not going to beat Trump in New Hampshire. And then they're not going to beat Trump in South Carolina. So then we're going to get to a situation, and it won't be until the end of February, because South Carolina is not until February 24th. They're going to be in a situation in which they've lost to Trump in Iowa, they've lost to Trump in New Hampshire, and they've lost to Trump in South Carolina. What happens then? Nobody stays in a race after something like that happens.
There's no money. There's no money.
No money, and you don't win Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina and lose the Republican nomination. So I think basically what we're going to see is just as last night we saw the keep him under 50% as the rallying cry. I think you're going to see a desperate attempt to get enough Democrats to vote in the New Hampshire primary to have Haley actually defeat him there, and use that as a rationale to keep going.
I've got a couple of observations I want to test on you. Mitch McConnell wrote in The Long Game, you can never start too early, but you can start too late. Did Governor DeSantis start too late?
You mean in getting in the race when he did
Yeah.
waiting? Yeah, well, it didn't help. But his theory, and it's actually pretty true, you look at the Real Clear Politics average polls. In March of 2023, last March, he polls to within about 14 points of Trump. And it appears to be a race. 14 points is a significant Trump lead, but it's not like today. And then at the end of April, when is the Alvin Bragg indictment? I think it's like or the beginning of April.
Yeah, it's in the spring. It's the first
The
one.
indictment comes in New York, and the Trump polls go up by 10 points, and DeSantis goes down by 10 points. And basically the dynamic that has been the same ever since sets in. And Trump even goes up incrementally after the subsequent indictment.
And a quick comment from you, Byron, on Chris Savita and Susie Wiles deciding not to have the former president debate.
Turned out to be brilliant. A lot of people thought, and I think the sort of good government view was that, of course, Trump should take part in the debates.
I urged him to debate. I thought it would hurt him not to be on the stage and get hammered. I was wrong. The pros were right.
No, he was right about it.
Yep, they were very right about it. Byron York on X, the Washington Examiner, Fox News. Thank you, Byron.